On a pale June morning in 1908, the sun had barely risen over the endless Siberian taiga when the air itself seemed to hold its breath. It was June 30th, 1908, a day that would begin in silence but end in chaos. Across the region, Evenki herders led their reindeer through the wet grass, unaware that the sky above was about to turn into a weapon. In the small trading post of Vanavara, shopkeepers were unlocking their doors, while far to the north, a strange light was already cutting through the upper atmosphere. Witnesses would later describe it as a blinding blue pillar of fire racing across the sky. At exactly 7:14 a.m., the object descended at a shallow angle, its speed estimated at over 27,000 kilometers per hour. In Nizhny Karolinsk, Semyon Semyonov sat in his home when a flash brighter than the sun seared the horizon, making the heat on his face feel like he was standing in front of a furnace. Seconds later, a colossal shockwave struck, throwing him from his chair and shattering every pane of glass in the building. In the open forest, Evenki hunters were knocked flat as the air roared like an artillery barrage. Birds exploded into flight, dogs howled, and the earth itself trembled beneath their feet. At 7:17 a.m., over the Podkamennaya Tunguska River, the sky erupted in a flash so bright that villagers more than 600 kilometers away claimed they could read newspapers at midnight that evening. In London, instruments at the Greenwich Observatory recorded unusual atmospheric pressure waves, their needle-tracing oscillations that lasted for hours. Across Eurasia, from Irkutsk to Tashkent, seismographs captured tremors, evidence of a blast equivalent to between 10 and 50 megatons of TNT. The explosion flattened an estimated 80 million trees in a perfect radial pattern, as if a giant hand had pressed down on the forest and released. Heat from the airburst ignited forest fires that raged for days, sending columns of smoke visible from over 500 kilometers away. Survivors spoke of the air itself burning their skin, their hair singed in seconds. In the days after, the night skies over Europe and parts of Asia glowed an eerie silver blue, a phenomenon caused by high-altitude ice crystals scattering sunlight. Residents of London reported being able to play cricket at midnight without artificial light. Tsarist authorities, preoccupied with political unrest and fearing rumors of foreign attack, delayed any official investigation for nearly 2 decades. By then, the world had already begun spinning theories, some grounded in science, others leaping into the realm of the fantastical. In 1921, more than a decade after the blast, a Soviet mineralogist named Leonid Kulik stumbled upon reports of a giant meteorite fall in a remote corner of Siberia while sifting through archives in Petrograd. Intrigued, he lobbied for an expedition, arguing it might reveal rich deposits of meteoric iron valuable to the Soviet state. His first attempt in 1921 failed when deep snow and scarce resources forced him to turn back before reaching the blast zone. It would take until 1927 for Kulik to finally reach the epicenter, after weeks of hauling equipment by sled through swamps, rivers, and mosquito-infested forests. What he found stunned him. Millions of trees flattened in a near-perfect radial pattern, all pointing away from a central point where no crater existed. Trees near the center were stripped bare of branches, their trunks standing upright like a ghostly forest of telephone poles. The ground beneath was scorched, but there was no sign of meteoric rock, no shards, no impact depression, nothing tangible to explain the devastation. Kulik collected eyewitness accounts from Evenki elders who described a fireball as large as the sun, a double thunderclap, and a hot wind that could knock down a buffalo. Some witnesses claimed the object changed direction mid-flight, sparking later theories of an intelligently guided craft. In the decades that followed, explanations ranged from the plausible, an asteroid or comet airburst, to the wildly speculative, including alien spacecraft exploding in mid-air. Nearly a century after the blast, scientists are still piecing together what really happened over the Tunguska River that summer morning. Advances in computer modeling allowed researchers to simulate the event with unprecedented precision, revealing that the fireball likely exploded at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers. This airburst would have released energy equivalent to the largest thermonuclear device ever detonated, yet without leaving behind radioactive fallout. Analysis of tree resin and soil samples collected decades later revealed microscopic silicate and magnetite spherules, tiny mineral beads formed under extreme heat and pressure. These spherules matched the composition of certain stony asteroids, strengthening the impactor hypothesis. Yet there was still a problem. No impact crater meant the object must have disintegrated entirely before touching the ground. One camp of scientists favored the comet theory, pointing to the atmospheric glow that followed as a sign of massive water vapor injection into the stratosphere. Another camp argued for a dense stony asteroid, noting that comets are too fragile to penetrate as deeply as witness reports suggest. Then came the exotic theories, some serious, others on the fringe. In 1973, physicists Albert Jackson and Michael Ryan proposed that a tiny black hole might have passed through Earth, entering in Siberia and exiting somewhere in the North Atlantic. This idea faltered when no evidence of an exit wound in the Atlantic seafloor was found. In the 2000s, the mirror matter hypothesis emerged, suggesting that the object could have been composed of a type of matter that interacts only weakly with our own, leaving almost no debris. Meanwhile, others clung to the alien craft theory, bolstered by Evenki stories of a metal cylinder in the sky that split apart before the blast. In 2013, Russian scientists claimed to have found possible fragments of the impactor in the bottom of Lake Cheko, a small body of water just 8 kilometers from the blast center. Today, the consensus leans toward a stony asteroid between 50 and 80 meters wide, exploding mid-air with the force of 185 Hiroshima bombs. But Tunguska is not just a mystery of the past. It is a warning for the future. NASA estimates that events of this magnitude occur every 300 to 1,000 years, and the only reason Tunguska struck uninhabited land was pure luck. If the blast had occurred over a major city, millions could have been killed instantly. In 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor reminded the world how vulnerable we remain. Its shockwave injured over 1,500 people without ever touching the ground. Tunguska's legacy lives on in international efforts to detect and deflect hazardous asteroids before they strike. From the swamps of Siberia to the halls of space agencies. Its story is a bridge between folklore and the frontiers of science. It reminds us that under the quiet beauty of the night sky, the universe still throws stones and sometimes they find us. What do you think happened that night? Hit that like button, drop your theory in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories from the edge of reality.